Greetings, friends. I am Matthew Knabe, licensed professional counselor. You are listening to Experience Emerge. Today, we will dive into another conversation about the broken and fractured aspects of our lives. Then we will discuss how we put these pieces back together again to find rest and live free. C.S. Lewis once said, "Miracles are a retelling in small letters of the very same story which is written across the whole world in letters too large for some of us to see." In today's episode, we are going to explore a story in hopes to gain a little bit of perspective on those larger letters. Well, we are about a month into this COVID-19 pandemic. Things are beginning to sink in for many of us that the world is a very different place than it was just a month ago. How do we explain this to our children? How do we make a living? How do we move forward when we are being asked to not move at all? Today, I want to share a resource that I have used with many of my clients. My church has used this in sermons, in small groups, and for outreach. It's an incredible resource for families during this time. It's called RightNow Media. I'm very excited to spend some time with my new friend from RightNow Media. He is the Director of National Accounts. Welcome, Ben McLennan.
Yeah, so man, I really appreciate just giving me this opportunity. So my name is Ben McLennan. I am a father of six. Been in and out of ministry, full-time ministry for about 15 years. I've been a kids pastor, youth pastor, did all those different positions, and now work for a 501c3 nonprofit ministry called RightNow Media. To describe it, give it like the 50,000 foot view, it's a Netflix of Bible studies. So, instead of action, adventure, romantic comedy, it's marriage, parenting, finance, leadership. And it's people like Francis Chan, Tim Tebow, Mark Batterson, Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
And churches use this as like a discipleship tool to give to the members of their church, use it for leadership training, those kinds of things.
That's great. Tell me a little bit about what you've done before you got to RightNow, and then we'll spend some time about what RightNow Media is.
Sure. Yeah. I started in ministry when I was 17 years old, and spent a year traveling, or about 3-4 months traveling and speaking at small churches of family, friends, and things like that. And then did some discipleship ministry, youth ministry, young adult ministry. I was a church planner for 3 years. And then about 6 years ago, became the youth pastor at my home church where I'd grown up in Phoenix, Arizona. Mm-hmm. And then that's probably actually about 8 years ago. And then about 5 years ago, started at RightNow Media.
Okay. And so you and I fortunately got brought together a couple weeks ago by Dr. Crosby, who's the president of Emerge Ministries. And you and I got to chat a little bit about your story. And I'm going to promise our audience right now that you and I are going to do another podcast, because your story of how your family has come together, if it's not supernatural, I don't know that I've ever heard what is. So we're going to do that. And I think that's so worthy. That story is so worthy to be told. But what we're dealing with in our world right now, and the climate of how things have drastically changed in a extremely small amount of time, and being that RightNow Media provides a resource and a platform, I'd like to spend some time with you and talk about what's going on. How are you guys handling how the world has changed, how the United States have changed, how churches are changing, and what that looks like. And in our pre-interview, you and I you were kind of talking some numbers. I want to open it up to you to kind of give us a little bit about what you guys are experiencing and what people need to know.
Sure, absolutely. If I could leave the audience with one thing, our goal, our mission at RightNow Media is to advance the mission of the local church. There's no greater hope for the world than that of the local church. And it's difficult right now, given the situation we're all in, I can't attend the local church. And so there's this movement towards technology, Facebook Live, church online. How do we do that? And RightNow Media, we started 40 years ago. It was actually a guy that would film missionaries and help tell their stories, and they travel overseas. And then, in the 80s and 90s, they did the packets of VHSs and DVDs for marriage groups, small groups, youth groups. We get those in the mail in a box. And then about 10 years ago, we moved to this streaming platform to say, how do we equip people right where they're at? And it's interesting just in the last 3 weeks how it has radically changed. I mean, we already served 20,000 plus churches, schools, ministries that use us, but it is just exponentially. We've seen people, even people who already use us, churches already use us, their usage and their attendees begin to really engage in RightNow Media. Normally on a typical month, we'll see, somewhere around 200 new partnerships, churches, organizations partner with us. In March, we had almost 900.
My gosh.
And then typical new users, people, because when a church partners with RightNow Media, there's no limit as to how many people they can give it to, right? So they give it to their entire community, no matter the size of the church, it's unlimited. Typically we'll see somewhere between 30, maybe 50,000 new users in a month, just on a good month. And we had 153,000 new engagements, new people find their way to RightNow Media. So, yeah.
So how do you guys handle that even moving forward? What are you thinking of April?
Yeah, April, we'll definitely still see some influx. I mean, a good amount, and people are still finding us, and so our goal is, how do we serve the church and serve them well during this time? It's interesting too, because we've got 150 employees in our office, and now we have 2 in the office, and so everybody's trying to figure out, right, how to work from home, how to partner and engage with pastors. And it's fun too, because you just see, you learn so much about people by just seeing what's in the background of their Zoom conference.
That's exactly right.
So we're looking and saying, how do we serve them well? In fact, we've even redone our whole library. I mean, normally this time we would be doing a library on Lent, or on Easter, and then and now we have an entire library around the COVID-19, about what's going on. And so we have a library on anxiety and overcoming anxiety and fear, and just kind of that aspect of it. And then there's other channels based on, you're at home and doing a personal devotional. How can we give you some devotionals at home? We've got 3,500 kids episodes, but we have a whole thing for kids on devotionals at home for parents to do with their kids stuck at home. Yeah.
So you talked about some very specific content that was being created. Talk a little bit about what you guys are focusing on, being that we are in the Easter season, and it's hard to even focus on that topic when we're the information every day is changing.
Right. And it's interesting too, because you almost don't want to turn on the news anymore, because all you do is just hear an update about how many. But I mean, those channels are very key. And then we've got great Henry Cloud content going through anxiety, overcoming depression, those kinds of things. But then we just specifically, and I honestly don't even know how we did it, but we just launched a study called Overcoming Anxiety and COVID-19 with Jonathan Pokluda. We had to be a couple guys go with him and film, and he walks through it. I think it's 4 short studies as he's walking through just overcoming anxiety with the specific, gearing towards what's going on with COVID-19.
Yeah. As you were talking about that, and as I was talking about that, we don't want to lose focus on the fact that it is the Easter season. It's so, I mean, as far as everything that's going on in the world today, one of the most important act of humankind still happened during this time, and we don't want to lose focus of that. At the same time, as a mental health therapist, over the last 3 weeks, I don't know that I've dealt with more clients in anxiety and panic-ridden states than I don't think I ever have. So knowing that RightNow is providing that kind of content is a useful tool for me as a therapist, for sure. And I will be using that not only for myself, but for clients as well. So talk to me a little bit about being a dad in the world of what are we calling this? The world of the unknown. Like, I don't know it's such a weird time. And how are you managing, just the changes?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's constant, right? Like it's just constantly changing. And we have 6 kids. My kids are 12, 7, 6, 4, and then 2 babies that are right around 14 months.
Mm,
And it just the change of it. I went from being kind of the bus driver who would shuttle my kids to baseball and dance and jujitsu and just all the different things, to now I am the jujitsu instructor. I'm the baseball coach. I'm the teacher. And my wife and I are playing. We always play zone defense, but now it's like full court press. So
right.
it's like, so just kind of walking through that, and it's interesting too because you have so much coming at you already, right? You're
Mhm.
trying, as me as a dad, I'm trying to figure out how do I shift my work from home, right? Um,
Yeah.
I was blessed to work from home anyway, but it's still that now my kids are home all the time, and so shifting that,
Right.
um, and then you're trying to manage my spouse, not manage, but help her, right, as she walks through this time, my kids as they walk through this time. It's interesting. We sat our kids down 2 weeks ago, when almost 3 weeks ago now, when everything kind of was starting to, okay, little league's canceled, dance is canceled, jujitsu's going to be Zoom jujitsu, which figure that out.
Right.
um and we sat down with our kids and explained it, and my daughter, my 4-year-old, just, I mean, I feel like she put into words what we're all feeling.
Right. Well, you
And
shared a little bit of that with me. Would you be okay with maybe playing a little bit of
yeah,
part of,
absolutely, absolutely.
because she does. She puts into words probably as well or better than any adult could of how we've all been feeling.
Yeah, it's really interesting too because she's 4, and
Hmm.
so I don't know how, people say, "Man, she's so articulate." That's not because of me. It's just her. Yeah, I'll play a little bit of it for you here, and she's a trip for sure.
Now everything in this world has to shut all the way down to nobody has to go anywhere because of their shutdown. The ice cream truck is shut down. And the water truck place is shut down, which is my favorite part because it is my favorite one.
What's that?
Yeah, it has the gumball one where there's gunballs and there's like blues. And now they have to shut all the way down, and we can't go anywhere. Not even McDonald's, which is my favorite restaurant.
McDonald's is shut down too.
She's so cute.
She mentions later. She says, "Why did germs come around to people if nobody wants them to come around to them?"
Right. Can we just ask the germs nicely to not be around me? It's funny. It's funny how a kid's mind goes. Like the ice cream truck is shut down.
Yeah.
The water.
We've never bought ice cream from the ice cream truck ever, but she wants the option, right? Like she wants the option.
Right. It's amazing how many things. It's probably as adults that we don't really utilize, but then all of a sudden it goes away, and then you get all
Yeah.
panicked and paranoid about it. So how are you handling then the conversations with them, and how are you able to have a family interaction to allow them to communicate, but maybe relieve them of some of the fear?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just giving her the space. Like for that instance with the kids, we just try to give them the space. In fact, she had, I recorded that. She had gone for about 10 minutes, and I pulled out my phone and went, "Man, I got to catch some of this,"
Yeah.
Um, but it's interesting too to just let them process that. I think my 12-year-old said something really. She homeschooled 3rd grade. We were in the process of moving from Texas back to Arizona, and it was really tough year for her to do that.
Mhm.
And my 12-year-old said, she goes, "It's not as hard when everybody's doing it." And so for her to process and say, "Okay, I'm going through this, but we're all going through this together."
Yeah.
And so that, I mean, just listening to them, letting them talk. And we have good days and bad days. I mean, we have 3 kids: a kindergartner, a 2nd grader, and a 6th grader, right? And I get emails from their teachers I mean, just before we started, my wife's in here trying to get the information for a Zoom because they're doing Zoom for sixth graders. You know, my second grader did his phonogram phonics stuff, you know, on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at my phone Sunday afternoon, and I have all these different things. And I went, I can't get it all straight. I just put my phone down and walk away. Okay.
Yeah.
But the knowledge to know, okay, it's there when I need it and I can wrap my brain around it. So I think it's just taking that, you know, there's that old saying, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, and just taking it steps at a time.
Yeah.
And as much as we can, we're blessed that we have a backyard. As much as we can, just getting outside in the sun with them and spend that time.
That's the difference between being in Phoenix, Arizona, and Akron, Ohio. You know, we've had a couple decent days, but you know, it's amazing, as you were just saying, that your 12-year-old was able to normalize an experience and recognize that she's not on an island, she's not alone, and the rest of the world is experiencing that. And to me, that's a big part of the interaction that, you know, we might be, you know, social distancing, but we still need to be social. We still need to recognize we can interact with the rest of the world, and know, you know, as again, as a mental health therapist, we get locked into our own heads, and when we feel like we're the only ones experiencing something, that's where the enemy can really get in,
right,
and really start pushing us away.
Right.
So,
I mean, it's what's funny you say that is my daughter did a Zoom, and was her first one today of her math tutoring, and she lit up seeing, you know, 24 other faces she hadn't seen in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I'd like to just spend a little bit of time on talking, for those who maybe don't know who RightNow Media is, and just kind of giving an idea, how do we get connected with it? What is someone who might be listening to this going, wow, that sounds like an amazing resource. How do they even get started down the path?
Sure. So we partner with ministries or churches. It's not something like a Netflix where you do individually for a family. The reason for that is we want the church to be able to shepherd their flock, would be the way to put it, for their content. But if you're interested, or if somebody's interested, you can go to, and I'll give you the link, but it's rightnowmedia.org/get-access, and we'll contact them. The best way to look at it is it's $5 million worth of content that they can give to anybody and everybody who attends their ministry or church, missionaries they support. And then there's, the kind of the three ways we serve churches is we want to help equip families, resource groups, and develop leaders. So equipping families is somebody, anybody and everybody who attends that church, visits that church, first-time visitors, they have access to this content through that church. And it's got the church's logo on it. It's got the church's name on it, that kind of thing. Yeah. The resourcing groups, it's interesting doing it through Zoom right now, sharing screens, watching Francis Chan in Israel walk through the book of Mark, that kind of thing. And then developing leaders is there's a whole module side of it for churches that they can create their own custom, use their videos, that video themselves, put some question and answers, and send it out to leadership for leadership development, counseling purposes if they want to counsel somebody remotely, those kinds of things, and they get the responses back. So.
Yeah. Ben, I love RightNow Media, and I know you and I've talked. I think Emerge Counseling Ministries, we're going to partner so that every one of our clients that comes in, they'll have access to that. I already use it with clients all the time, and for me, it's an amazing resource, and it's unlike really anything else I've utilized that has. You just have to go to one place. It's not going to this site and going to this site for this pastor, or going to it's like it's all right there. And I think right now, when we are being encouraged to stay at home, we're being encouraged to be with our families. That's an amazing place to go, and being able to get really, really good content to spark questions. And the thing I've noticed over the last couple of weeks, and I'll use this as an example. I had a 14-year-old client, I think it was about 2 weeks ago now. I asked him how he was doing, and we were doing a Zoom so I could see his face, and he lit up. He goes, "My dad and I are spending more time than we've ever spent before." It's forcing these situations, and in the gloominess and in the darkness of everything that's happening, I'm still seeing God move. I'm still seeing things happen. And, I think right now is a tool that God's using specifically in this time, because we need somewhere to go.
We're hoping, one of kind of my background in church and our hope, and I always try to convey this, is that I can give the pastor back time with his family. Mm-hmm. Right? Even when we're not in COVID-19, but especially right now, you run out of content. You run out of, I'm trying to give my people content, my church content. But then too, you're going from counseling to just preaching a sermon to, and you got to figure out, how do I do this Facebook Live thing to get my people, to stay engaged with my church? And our hope for RightNow Media is, how do we give them content to help them do that? It's content they can trust, great quality content. And it's interesting you say, my wife this morning said, just kind of on the dad side, my wife this morning said, we didn't want to do homeschool, but I enjoy having the kids around.
Yeah.
And just playing catch with, with them in the backyard. And
mm-hmm.
So we can find the positive.
Absolutely.
We can find that golden nugget in the middle of the mud. And so, yeah.
Man, that's such a true statement, Ben. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate your time. When this whole thing's over, I definitely want to hang out. I feel like over our last two times, it's like we know a lot of similar people and have crossed probably similar paths, and I really enjoy hanging with you. And we're gonna we'll schedule very soon another episode so that we can talk about your family and what an extraordinary story that is. But I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time.
Man, happy to do it. And just, and it's something else, is just us as a team as RightNow Media, we're praying for the church, the Big C church. So if there's, listeners, we keep them in our prayers. We pray every Monday morning as a whole team. But I appreciate the opportunity to do this.
I want to mention again, if your church or organization is looking for resources or content like this, have a representative reach out to RightNow Media. I will post the link in the description of this episode. What a really great guy we just listened to, and a great heart for ministry. Thanks, Ben, for taking the time away from your family to offer us some just great content. If you have any topics or questions about the show, please email us at experience@emerge.org. And as Ben mentioned at the end, we are praying for the church, and we are praying for our country, and we are praying for you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the XM Podcast. Until next time, or when our Savior comes, God bless.